Today, in Burbank, California, 8 teams from the Americas, Australia, and New Zealand will battle it out for a $50,000 grand prize and one of 3 tickets to BlizzCon. Live from the ESL studio, this is the World of Warcraft Americas Regionals. What is up, everybody, and welcome to the World of Warcraft Arena Americas Regionals. My name is Josh Allen, aka Lord. Joining me here at the caster desk is none other than Sid Compton, aka Supatees, and Jared Colston, aka VHell. We have a lot of amazing matches lined up for today, and I could not possibly be more hyped right now.
Yeah, we really do. We have 8 teams all across North America. We have 1 team from ANZ that qualified, and of course our Latin American team that qualified also. And one of the things about this tournament is it's almost the changing of the guards. A lot of the teams that we've seen in the past few years with a lot of players that constantly show up at tournaments are gone. So this is 8 new teams. I think our only veteran is probably Vanguards and Chanimals, and that's about it.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a lot of new blood today, and they're going to be battling it out through a lot of series, and we're going to have to see who ends up on top. We've got a lot of underdogs, Australia and Brazil, representing their country, their pride, the money, the ticket to BlizzCon, everything on the line for them, and 6 other teams joining them from across North America for this exciting day of arena action. And from this point, we've got a lot more talent to show you. We're going to toss it over to Bajira and Venruki. How are you guys?
Hey guys, we're doing great. Hello and welcome to the World of Warcraft America's Regional Tournament. I'm Jackson Bajira Blyton, joined today by Elliot Venruki Vencel. And like we heard, this is where 8 of the best teams from North America, Latin America, New Zealand, and Australia will be squaring off for 3 spots at BlizzCon and a hefty $100,000 prize pool. So this is definitely shaping up to be an amazing day. And the guy I have here over to my right is no newbie to the tournament scene. However, this is his first time joining us as a caster in the Road to BlizzCon series. That's got to be exciting, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great to be here today, guys. We have a lot of great matches planned for you guys. A very, very exciting weekend. These teams qualified from a number of different cups. 1 Australian New Zealand Cup, 1 Latin America Cup, and 3 North American Cups as well. Each team has come here to play their best, win, get those 3 tickets to BlizzCon, and ultimately the prize pool.
All right, so these guys that we're going to be seeing playing today have definitely fought their way to this America's Regional stage. They are no newbies to tournaments either, and I know they're going to put on some amazing games for us today. So what we're going to do now is throw it back to the casters, take a look at the Group A and B brackets to see exactly who we're going to be seeing battle it out today on the America's Regional stage.
Thanks so much, guys. Absolutely looking forward to hearing everything you guys have to say about every single game that we see here today as well. But Supatees, why don't you go ahead and walk us through the brackets for today?
Yeah, today is an exciting day. We've got 2 groups. Group A consisting of Method, the #1 team in the seeding, Team Hype, FollowEsports.com, Tempo Storm. Now moving into Group B, we have Luminosity, Juveniles, Dream Deferred, and Santos Dexterity. They're going to be battling it out to make it to the top 4 tomorrow, and we can see that a little bit more closely as we move into the bracket side of the tournament. But to point out here, the numbers are representing the team seed. So we have Luminosity as the 2nd highest rated team currently. We have Team Deferred as the 3rd highest team currently, and FollowEsports.com as the 4th, following by Tempo Storm, Juvenile, Santos Dexteria, and we're going to actually look at the group stage now. We've got Method versus Hype. That's the first series of today. VHell and myself are going to be bringing that to you. What I would expect to see is going to be some Mage Moonkin Paladin versus Turbo action. This is Australian Pride on the line versus arguably the best team in North America. Second of all, we've got FollowEsports.com going against Tempo Storm. That is going to be Group A. Moving now forward into Group B, which is going to be happening a little bit later, where Lore and Venruki are going to be in charge. It's going to be Luminosity versus Juveniles, a little bit of an unknown team, Juveniles, but definitely Titans themselves are going to be facing off against them. And then Dream Deferred versus Santos Dexterity. This is Team Brazil at the bottom facing off against Dream Deferred once again for that national pride against one of the best teams in North America.
And it's quite a stacked roster that we're looking at in terms of all the players. And just every person is at the very top of their class. Like, just can't say enough about the quality of this tournament and how great all these players are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're going to take a look at the rules next, just to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown of how all of these rules are going to sort out here. Jared, why don't you walk us through those?
Sure. We have a little bit of change this year, of course. We are playing 3v3 Arena, if you guys didn't know that so far. We are playing threes. It's what we love to broadcast for all these tournaments. But we've included an extra player on to the roster, so you'll be able to maybe counter-comp one of the teams you're afraid of facing. And most of the teams actually took advantage of that. Of course, we are going to be starting all of our matches out on Nagrand Arena. We're going to be playing best of 3 in the group stage. So the first map with Nagrand Arena, arguably the most balanced map for just about every comp. And then what will happen is right before the map, both captains have to tell the admins what comp they're playing, and it's a double blind pick, so you don't know what the enemy team is going to be bringing into Nagrand Arena. So it's kind of like you have to gamble a bit and see if you can throw off the enemy team, maybe picking one of their counters that you have a feeling they might pick. And then once that first map is over, the loser of Nagrand Arena has to pick the next map. Following that, the winning team is going to lock in their comp, and then the losing team is notified of that comp, and then they can decide what the comp that they're playing on. So it's a little bit of an advantage for the losing team to give them, a little leg up, and of course they're down 0-1, so they're going to need the help.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a lot on the line in every single one of these matches as well. We've got a huge $100,000 prize pool that we'll be working through here today. Of course, the first place gets the lion's share of that, $50,000 for a weekend of playing some World of Warcraft. I'm pretty okay with that personally.
That's awesome.
Second place will get $20,000. Third place will get $10,000. And those 3 first teams will also be the ones that qualify for BlizzCon later this year, which itself has $250,000 in prizes to give out. So there's a lot of money at stake here. Moving down from there, 4th place will still get $8,000, which is nothing to sneeze at. The 5th and 6th place will get $4,000. And 7th and 8th, they don't walk away with nothing. They still get $2,000, which is great. Everybody's worked really, really hard to get here, so it's nice that everybody gets to walk away with at least something for their troubles. However, there's a big difference between $50,000 and $2,000. There's about $48,000 difference there. So all of these teams are going to be working their absolute hardest to make it all the way to that first place prize.
They are, and it's a very, very competitive field too. So, and $100,000 prize pool for our regionals. It's the largest I've seen so far at WoW tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do have social media as well, if you're not aware. Pretty much everyone has that nowadays. So if you'd like to join in, you can find us on Facebook at /Warcraft, find us on Twitter at Warcraft, and then, of course, on Twitch and YouTube as well. Warcraft, absolutely everywhere. You can also follow along with us if you are using Twitter by using the hashtag WowEsports. And I believe we'll actually be displaying some tweets during the broadcast here today. So make sure to use that hashtag WowEsports for a chance to have everybody hear whatever it was that you had to say about how awesome these games are going to be. And also this weekend, we do have a special promotion going on with the Blizzard Gear Store. You can get a 10% discount. You just put whatever you want in your cart. At the end, you use the promo code WOWRTB15. So like WoW Road to BlizzCon 2015. WOWRTB15. That'll give you a 10% discount on anything you wish to purchase off of the Blizzard Gear Store.
Yeah, that's a great way to take advantage of that code just for watching esports this weekend. So excited about this tournament. Of course, these players following the road to BlizzCon, we had our 3 online North American qualifiers, and we picked a bunch of teams out of that, 6 teams. And then, of course, like we were saying before, we have a team from Latin America that played in the Latin America Qualifier Cup. That was a great broadcast. I absolutely loved listening to those commentators get so excited about the matches. And, of course, then we have Team Hype that qualified through from the ANZ qualifiers.
Yes, speaking about Team Hype, that's going to be the first team we see today going up against Team Method. And as we're saying, Chanimal's already a BlizzCon champion himself, leading 3 new players into the LAN tournament scene, but having a lot of success. They have a lot of compositions available, Magelock, Shaman. Actually, in fact, we're looking at the first team over here, which is Team Hype, and they are from Australia, and that's going to be Trip, that is playing Death Knight or Enhancement Shaman, and we've got Boy Franklin on Warrior, we've got the Director on Restoration Druid, and unfortunately for them, their 4th player, Simply Shredded, was not able to make it, so they're not going to be able to take advantage of that 4-player roster. They're stuck with these 3 players that you see on your screen, and they are going to be battling it out to the best of their ability with what I would assume is going to be Turbo Cleave against Team Method here shortly, which we will be displaying for you. and Method is most likely going to be playing the Mage, Moonkin, Paladin. As you can see on your screen, Citrix, the closest member, Gorecki, the second member, and Rosita Jones at the far side, and they're most likely going to be playing the Mage, Moonkin, Holy Paladin composition. Lore, who do you think is going to take this?
I feel like Method, they're looking pretty calm and relaxed at this point. We actually saw Gorecki actually yawning there for a second. Can't be feeling too nervous about this upcoming match, and I can't really blame them either. These guys have a ton of tournament experience underneath their belts. That said, Team Hype is a relatively unknown team. They can always pull something out that you're not really expecting. Maybe something happens that you weren't prepared for. Like, oh, they're playing this comp. How do we even fight against this comp? And that can easily be something that makes you lose a game. But I would definitely put my guess down as Method as being the favorite in this particular matchup. That said, we do have an interview with each of these teams that we'll be able to throw over to you guys here real quick to get their thoughts on how this matchup is going to work out.
We have a lot of practice against Turbo Cleave, and they're pretty much a worse version of Luminosity, so it should be easy.
Gorecki is Method's most valuable player. If he wasn't in the team, they would be very limited in how they could play overall.
Hype has nothing to lose, really. They might just run at me with everything they have.
But we played them during practice and it was actually not too bad.
They're quite limited in their capabilities overall.
They didn't practice a lot. They're not high on ladder. They play an easy comp for us. Hype should be a free win for us.
They have much more experience in tournaments than us, but I believe we'll give them a good run for their money in the first round.
All right, that was great to hear from both of those teams. Method sounded very, very confident in that video. How do you think this match is going to play out?
I mean, both of these teams are going to be looking for a long game. Expect to see dampening involved. Now, Method are going to be looking to slow the momentum of Hype. They're going to be using crowd control through Polymorph and Cyclone to disable their opponents and not allow them to attack. And they're going to kite it out as long as possible until dampening is at highest point, at which they're going to set up a 3v1 situation to take down most likely the Enhancement Shaman, which is going to be Trip, or possibly a swap to Franklin. I've seen them practicing a lot. They have multiple targets on Team Hype, whereas Team Hype at a bit of a comp disadvantage here against this Mage, Moonkin, Paladin, need to find a way to punch through that crowd control and find their primary kill target, which is either going to be Gorecki or Citrix. Once again, Method, they could choke here. That's really their most likely way of losing, to be honest. I feel like if they are confident with this composition, if they lead forward, they land the crowd control that they need, that Method is going to be able to take this cleanly.
Yeah, and you really can't underestimate any team that has made it at this point. You know, of course, Hype had to fight their way through that large bracket of teams for the Australian qualifier. And we've seen in the past at tournaments, you know, when teams are overly confident and they don't even worry about preparing for a match on a team that might be unknown, they can get thrown out of the tournament as the gates are just about to open. As we follow Team Method right out of the start, of course, Gorecki playing that Moonkin with Rosita Jones playing that Mage, looking to initiate a bit. Of course, we do have, like you said, the Turbo Cleave, the Enhanced Shaman, the Arms Warrior, as they were delaying just a little bit. Looks like they're going to try to go on the Mage pet first of all.
Yeah, taking every little advantage that you can. This Turbo Cleave has to stay at the pillar. They're going to fall to the pressure of the crowd control that Rosita and Gorecki have. Now, Gorecki's Cyclone is an ability you want to watch for, and it looks like they're actually going to go for some burst onto Franklin. He trinkets that first Hodge immediately, goes for the Master Reflect, a nice hex onto Rosita, deny that Polymorph. So good play out from Franklin early on, saving some cooldowns for his team to stop that initial crowd control.
Yeah, as we can see, Shaz is just getting controlled a lot. He really put himself kind of out of position into the middle of the map, and of course, the second he started poking his head out, Gorecki was right there with those Cyclones. So we see the Stormbolt on to Citrix with the Blade Storm that Franklin is just going to go after Citrix. Like you said, he's definitely a viable target for them to kill.
Yeah, they need to be able to connect onto Citrix if they want to end this game, but they need to deal with the crowd control first. We can see the Enhancement Shaman Trip going through a large crowd control chain at the moment, but Rosita blinking in, Franklin in hot pursuit, leaping over, but he's caught into a Hodge. I wonder if they notice the Nature Swiftness up on the Director right now. I don't think they do, and he might be able to get that heal off. He's still holding on to it for quite some time here. We can see Trip still getting CC'd, rooted up, just not able to connect. Franklin trying to do his best to output as much damage as possible as Method retreat back to their starting pillar. They want to drag Franklin Franklin out of line of sight and isolate him that way, it would appear. But he's not falling for that trick. He swaps back right onto Rosita in the center field so that his Resto Druid, the Director, can pick up the heals and avoid as much crowd control as possible.
It's incredible. He still has Nature Swiftness up. Rosita Jones hasn't found, there we go. Now we're going to see the deep freeze followed by a poly, but he's still not spell sealing it off whatsoever. That is crazy.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it might just be a bit of an error here, but nice Cyclone out from Gorecki in a 6 swap now onto Trip. Star Surges are flying, and you can see Trip is down to 35%, trying to Healing Surge himself back up behind the pillar in the defense line. Franklin now leaving that Cyclone, trying to connect, goes for the Stormbolt, but unfortunately gets full rooted, not able to connect to the target that he would like to, and you can see the Polymorphs now onto Trip, the clone onto Franklin. They're just looking to slow the momentum of Hype as long as possible to set up that 3v1 situation. Deep Freeze is available. There they go. Triple stun combo comes out. Comet Storm flying through. Franklin in a lot of trouble with no trinket for 7 seconds. Solar Beam onto Trip to prevent any off-healing. They need to chain the CC onto the Director. It does not look like they have it. He's going to use that Cenarian Ward. He's going to stabilize Franklin, and now Franklin's trinket is available for the next attack.
All right, and Franklin is going to look to switch onto Citrix, but immediately Rosita Jones saw that was coming and is tossing out the polymorphs. Gets triple polymorphed right there, followed by the root on him too. So looks like Franklin is having some problems staying to his target. They're going to switch over to the Mage Pet and kill it right away, but Rosita Jones knew that was happening and was already precasting the next pet. But look at this crowd control that's just layered onto the Turbo Cleave. They don't seem to be doing very much, although look at, they're spiking down Rosita Jones right there just as I said that. We see the poly into the Cyclone too, just tossing out a lot of control onto the Director.
Yeah, Rosita feeling a bit of pressure right now. He's going to be comfortable, though, with Citrix Avenging Wrath still up. Looks like they're pressuring Franklin with clones onto Trip right now. A Polymorph landed onto the Director. Do they have the damage to follow it up? Mass Reflect comes through. It reflects that Polymorph. Well done from Franklin to break up the crowd control chain. Now they need to start outputting some damage. They're going to finally both connect onto Rosita, but right when he goes for the Deep Freeze, they need to be able to stop this Polymorph. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to land it, which means that Franklin will be sitting pretty right now as he goes for that Stormbolt onto Citrix. A heroic leap now onto Citrix. The Blade Storm onto him, trying to output as much DPS as possible as we see Trip now following up in the rear, unfortunately eating more polymorphs, trying to connect to his target. Now, Dampening can pay it forward for both teams here. Unfortunately, the Director tried to make an offensive play. He blinked in. He's going to eat a full clone. Well played from Gorecki, realizing that positioning. Now, a lot of damage is following up onto Trip, down to 30%. That Iron Bark and Cenarian Ward doing its work, though, to deal with that potential burst.
Yeah, and I do like that Trip pulled back and was behind the pillar with Director, knowing that he kind of put himself out of position, like you were saying, and got that CC layered on top of him. So, you know, it is great, though, that Hype was able to survive through that. I thought that Trip was going to die through that the second that CC started on the Director.
Yeah, we can see Trip actually had to use his trinket there. I don't believe his Shaman Rage was available just yet. So smart play, trinketing, getting out of that solar beam sound, so he's able to keep himself very stable. And I have to give credit to Hype. They're rotating their trinkets and their defensive cooldowns very well. No close calls just yet. If they can keep their cool and try and take advantage of any mistakes that Method can make, they might be able to pull it off. But we see a lot of burst flying in onto Franklin right now, down to 30%. Star Surge connects, going for the Starfire follow-up. Comet Storm flying through. The Director answers that with his Nature Swiftness. He's going to stabilize him. Franklin trying to Mass Reflect that incoming Polymorph. Really well done from Franklin this game to interrupt that CC coming out from Rosita. Rosita's got to find a different way to get it, and it seems like they're not even going to try. They're just going to go for the burst onto Trip, down to 30%, trying to line of sight. Gorecki chasing after, now has to retreat as Franklin starts to pound against him. And what Hype really needs to look for is a couple more Paladin swaps to Citrix. They might be able to take this game. They're doing very well.
Yeah, they are. Every time that they're starting with the Stormbolt onto Citrix, they're leaping over immediately and starting. I think they just need to wait until Trip's in position to do some damage also. All the onslaughts onto Citrix that we've seen so far have just been Franklin by himself.
Oh, but the setup on the Trip, he's in the Solar Beam silence. He cannot use Shamanistic Rage. He needs the Director to save him right now. Franklin goes for the desperate Mass Reflect, and once again, interrupting that CC chain. The Director will save Trip, the Enhancement Shaman. Now we see the Director blinking in, goes for the bash onto Citrix. He needs to be able to land the clone. He's not going to get it. And Gorecki, once again, punishing that offensive play, throwing a full clone onto the Director. Pressure now onto Franklin. He uses that regen heal, even the gift of the Naru, to try and heal himself back up, and he's doing a great job of that. Now we see Shaza going through some Polymorph chains right now, trying to get some purges off, doing a great job to use every global as efficiently as possible while he's getting crowd controlled like this. Now we can see the Director repositioned on the opposite side, taking the enemy team's pillar as they go for that triple stun combo. We can see Trip using that Shamanistic Rage. He's fully hotted. He's going to be completely fine.
Yeah, as we see the Deep went out onto the Director, but there was no follow-up CC that landed too, which isn't that great from Rosita Jones. I like that the Director is constantly changing where he's posted up, and it makes Citrix kind of they're putting Citrix at a disadvantage at this point. Like, Citrix is just sitting at 40 yards, you know, trying to toss out some heals and stuff. But every time that the Director changes what pillar they're playing on, immediately Method has to react to that.
Yeah, nice Iron Bark from the Director, preemptively expecting a deep freeze, but smart play from Rosita holding on to that. They're going to Cyclone him with that Iron Bark, negating it, removing the HOTS as well. They need to move forward for the deep freeze polymorph chain. A clone onto Franklin. Looks like it's a good time to set up a deep freeze. There it goes, full Hodge onto Trip, but he broke out of it somehow there, and he's not going to be stun locked. That could have been the kill. He had no Shamanistic Rage, but they don't care. They're going to swap it onto Franklin. Down to 19%. Desperation, Mass Reflection comes out. Cenarian Ward is up. He should be able to stabilize. And once again, giving credit to Hype, they're rotating through their cooldowns effectively. Now we can see the Director will most likely be the next person to save the next setup. We see Gorecki kind of preemptively using his Bark Skin. Wasn't in too much trouble right there, but he just wants to keep Citrix mana as high as possible as we move into the deep stages of dampening.
Yeah, and Citrix is doing a great job. You can see all of the denounces coming out onto the Warrior also. Every moment that he has free. As again, once we see that Stormbolt come out, you know that Franklin is going to be leaping over. But over and over, we see that they are immediately crowd controlling Franklin when he comes in. We see the Bladestorm actually. Looks like a little defensive Bladestorm to get back and try to punish Rosita Jones for blinking up. As the whole team of Hype just sitting near that pillar with a Sham Rage forced from Shaza 2. So maybe they can capitalize now that they capitalize on the fact that the Sham Rage is down. But they really need to start that CC onto the Director if they want to make something happen.
Yeah, we see the Director going for that preemptive Iron Bark. He wants to hold on to his trinket as long as possible, but Celestial Alignment comes out from Gorecki. He's looking to try and get a kill here as they secure the full Hodge onto the Enhancement Shaman here, stuck in center field, but with no crowd control onto the Director, they're not going to get anything done. And likely that Celestial Alignment's not going to come up, but they're going to swap the damage onto Franklin, and he's down to 35%. We can see Hype playing very well to retreat away from that cooldown, and now we can see the Cyclone out from the Director onto Gorecki. He actually had to trinket that. Stormbolt onto Citrix, trying to pressure Rosita Jones. He's only got one more block with that Cold Snap accessible. Shamanistic Rage is coming up. Die by the Sword is available. The Director has his trinket. They're looking good. They need to survive this swap. He's going to Shaman Rage just before the Solar Beam. Really well played from the Enhancement Shaman Trip. Now he's going to be able to connect with that Ascendance damage. He just needs to get the damage rolling. Rosita down to 60%. Looks like they're going for a split DPS. Now reconnecting onto Rosita with a Stormbolt onto Citrix, but unfortunately Franklin is going to get cloned up and not able to connect. And Hype, they need to find a way to punch through this crowd control. I feel like the Director needs to take a bit more risk if he wants to get some offensive plays going, get some Cyclones maybe onto Rosita so they can switch onto Citrix, so they're not going to get Polymorph, but they're just going for Burst. They don't need CC like I would have expected with the Defreeze now onto the Director. He did pre-Ironbark, pre-Cenarian Ward, and Rallying Cry was used as well, so they will stabilize. Now Hype, they need to punish this aggression. They need to stabilize. Right when you've survived your opponent's strongest attack, you need to push them out.
Yeah, and that's what they're trying to do right now as the ring goes down, but it doesn't look like, it was interrupted. That was great. As we see a full sheep onto Franklin, here comes the Recklessness. Let's see if they can do something. Saved by the Light procs onto Rosita Jones as he's down to about half, needing to blink out, but he's able to survive through this, and that was a great job of Hype just pushing them off the pillar. Like you said, you really need to go offensive after the enemy team goes offensive. As we see immediately Shaza taking a ton of damage, and again, that Mass Spell Reflect saves the day.
Yeah, he can hold on to his Shamanistic Rage. I think it's a very good decision from the Director to run Cenarian Ward. He's been using it very effectively, healing through all the potential burst. Now another swap onto Franklin. We can see Hype. They have to retreat to the pillar. If they expose themselves in center field, they're guaranteed to lose. They need to find some way to deal with the situation, but Citrix sitting with Bubble, 2 buffs, Avenging Wrath, and his Trinket is feeling so comfortable right now. And Method, they don't care. They have the crowd control to deal with dampening. So if Hype wants to play this defense, let's hide for as long as possible, it's going to backfire.
Yeah, it is, and as you can see, they're just trying to stay out of line of sight, and there we go. The immediate stun on to Gorecki, as he's going to trinket it instantly because they want to stay offensive. Now they're going on the Director. This is really smart, as he's taking so much damage, and he goes down. That was a really, really fast swap. I liked that Gorecki immediately trinketed that Stormbolt, because that would have stopped the setup completely.
Yeah, it really would have, and Method going to be feeling pretty confident throughout that game one. I feel Hype played a good defense, unfortunately weren't able to find a way to play offense against Team Method, and I appreciate Method finding a way to deal with that turtling strategy. Let's just go after the Director. Dampening's too high. He's not going to be able to deal with it. But now for our expert analysis, the one and only Hanson Bajira, tossing it over to you.
Thanks, Sid. All right, so that game was a little bit surprising to me. We're seeing the extremely confident, top-seeded Method coming out talking about how this is going to be an easy game for them, but we saw Hype living up to the hype a little bit. You know, perhaps outdoing the hype for them, being the lowest-seeded team. They were playing really well defensively. However, at the end, they tried to turtle up, and Method said, we've had enough of this. They just go right in on the enemy team's Resto Druid, the Director, and drop him where he stands behind his pillar. So they waited a little bit long into the game, 34% dampening, to finally secure that win. But, you know, patience is a virtue, especially in a tournament like this where you need to win every game if you want to make it to BlizzCon. So we're going to throw back to the casters. Let's see how Game 2 goes.
All right, thank you very much, Bajira. And of course, like we said during the rules segment earlier, the losing team of Hype needs to pick the map now. And of course, they have chosen Dalaran Sewers, and we were saying that this is a great map for TurboCleave to choose just because of the confined area. Now, of course, that means that Team Method is now selecting their comp, and they have chosen to go with, looks like, same comp. And so overall, both teams very confident. That game, I got to give it to Hype. They showed themselves way better than I thought that it was going to go. You know, going against the #1 seed, you know, you kind of expect somebody, you know, coming into the tournament with that high rating that they would just stomp the lowest seed team. But, you know, that was a great game.
Yep, they had very good defense. Now they've got to find a way to go on offense. And having played a lot of Turbo myself at home, it's one of those things where you kind of just have to risk it if you want to end up taking the win. You've got to pressure Citrix. If you don't pressure him, he's going to hold on to all of his cooldowns. They're going to take advantage of that late game where they can crowd control you. And now we've even seen swaps to the Director, so he's got to be ready for that now, something that he might not have expected.
Yeah, he really does. And, you know, I loved that Method was kind of, you know, just making sure Director couldn't get any drinks out by, you know, tossing the Hurricane and the Blizzard down. And then they were like, well, what are they going to do? Are they just waiting for cooldowns? Are they waiting? What are they going to do? And Garecki's like, well, I have 3 charges of Star Search. Let's just push in. Yep. And they did.
And I feel like the Director, he had his trinket at the end. He had Iron Bark coming up. I think he could have survived that. I just wonder if he didn't want to overuse his cooldowns. He wasn't expecting to go down that easily. I'm sure he's going to try a lot harder in those later stages of the game. They played very well defensively. Let's see if they can find a way to go on offense. As we see Rosita, blazing speed, goes for the deep, lands the full sheep. Franklin not able to stop it. He has to trinket that early Hodge, uses the die by the sword to reduce that incoming Celestial Alignment damage. Big burst onto Garecki, a sudden burst of damage. Citrix forced to trinket, pop his Avenging Wrath. Now we see Method rotating the damage onto Shaza, who's going to Shamanistic Rage immediately, now popping his Ascendance. Unfortunately, it is going to be counteracted by Citrix's cooldowns. Franklin just not able to connect now into his sheep, and his Stormbolt basically wasted. We see the Director pushing offensively onto Garecki, lands a full bash, forcing the trinket out. Now we can see Method having 2 trinkets down. Maybe Hype can do something with this.
Maybe, as they're just going to chase Citrix around at this point, but, you know, the strength of those wings, he's going to be, or Avenging Wrath, he's going to be okay, as we see the stun come out onto Shaza too. So Method is doing a great job of punishing the Director every time he chooses to poke out from behind those pillars, of course, with Rosita Jones just constantly trying to get those polymorphs down. But the Director is doing a great job of keeping his team offensive, as the clone is going to land onto Director right there. Let's see if they can make something happen. Franklin down really low, having to go D-stance and toss out those shield barriers even, as the Director is going to come out in Iron Bark. The cross CC is just great from Method, tossing out the polymorph onto Shaza as Franklin gets full stunned, as he's going to be out in the middle, but they're going to just chase Citrix around. I think this is a better strat for Hype.
Yeah, they need to take a risk. The Director blinking in, even on top of Citrix, lands the half bash. Now they need to get the pressure rolling as Rosita. This forces Rosita and Garecki to poly and clone and not go for damage if they're able to connect appropriately. But nice retreat from Franklin, heroic leap into the pillar while Director sat through that CC. Shaza not responding to the damage. He has Shaman Rage available. He's holding on to it. Very greedy play. Forced the rallying cry out from Franklin as well. But thankfully, Franklin was there to hold his hand and keep him alive. Now we see Shaza getting cloned up at low HP. Rallying cry is going to fade. They need to get some hots rolling onto Shaza. Celestial Alignment is coming up in 1 minute. Fortunately, Shaza will have Shaman Rage available and Trinket coming up for it. They need to deal with that Celestial Alignment when it comes.
Yeah, as you can see, lots of CC coming out on to Franklin as he was rooted into clones, and Garecki was able to Typhoon him off the edge too, as Franklin is just taking so much damage with the Solar Beam on top to stop those off heals, and there he goes down. There was just so much damage coming out from both Rosita and Garecki.
Yep. And again, that's a situation where you don't want to overlap cooldowns, but if you don't respond in time, there's just too much burst to deal with, and at that point you've already lost. So unfortunately, this means that these are best of 3 series, and this means that Hype will move and have a second chance to fight later in the day. However, Method will be moving in the victor side of their group, taking this series 2-0, feeling pretty confident. You can see them there on the screen, just casually dealing with their win, not kind of overjoyed, but it kind of something that we would have expected. from Team Method, having shown such great experience on the ladder and success, and their ability to multi-comp definitely showcasing here in this series.
Yeah, and that was a clean match by Method that time. You know, the Grand Arena kind of shaky at times, was kind of scared about what was going on, you know, behind that pillar, and I thought that Hype was able to almost able to bring it to the long game. But let's talk to Bajira and see what his insight on those matches were.
Hey guys, so once again we see Method coming out a lot more aggressive that game. It seemed like maybe match one was a little bit of a feeling each other out stage, checking out and seeing how the teams matched up. But I think the map choice, which could have been a good map choice for Hype, maybe it allowed them to go more easily on side tricks, actually ended up backfiring for them since they weren't able to get away. And when the Mage and Boomkin both unloaded their burst on Franklin, even through Die by the Sword, he ended up falling. So our underdogs from down under, unfortunately, are going to be facing a tough way back into the tournament at this point. But we're going to throw it back to the casters as we get ready for potentially an interview with the winning team.
All right, thank you very much, Bajira, yet again with that great analysis. Now, how do you think that match could have played better for Hype? What was something that, as a Turbo Cleave, playing against this comp that you could do?
It's a matchup that's a little bit more favored for the Mage Mook and Paladin. Like I was saying, the best sort of strategy is just to risk it. And I could see in some of the interviews, they said that they were going to take that riskier strat, and I think that they probably should have. They played out that first game very well defensively, like basically flawlessly until the end where the director, you know, a bit of a questionable play, but dampening that high, what can you really do? And I think they just needed to risk it, go after side tricks, pressure him, and get some damage out because they just weren't able to throughout the entire game. But we do have the winner interview ready, and I can see Chanimals, he's ready to go. Let's go, Bajira.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm joined here at the analyst station by, I'm sure, a proud team captain of Method, Chanimals. So even though you didn't play in that match, you've got to be thrilled with how your team stepped up to the plate and got a nice first round victory out of that game.
Yeah, I kind of expected it was going to happen anyways, so not too thrilled about it, but...
So what was your impression? I mean, obviously you're brimming with confidence and you're still very serious, obviously happy about the first game, but probably looking forward to the future game. But I guess in that game, even though you were facing the lowest seed, it seemed like the first match was a little slow. Can you explain, was that part of the strategy, going out a little bit defensively, trying to feel each other out? What was the sort of slowness about in the first game?
I mean, it was their first games for a lot of them. For Gorecki and Citrix, it was their first LAN game ever. So I think they were maybe a bit nervous, but I don't know. You don't really need to play too aggressively into Turbo Cleave to win. You pretty much win eventually as Mage Moonkin, so yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like any sort of information they gleaned from that first match definitely got ramped up into overdrive as they seemed to just run over the team the second time around. So moving forward into the tournament, I don't want to give away too many strategies, but is that we see a lot of Turbo Cleaves in this tournament, but when do you think you might step up to the plate?
We'll see.
All right.
Not too many secrets.
I like that. Cards close to the chest. Strategies intact, but maybe not out there just yet. We are going to throw to a quick break and get back to some more arena matches.
It feels good to reunite under the Method banner. Our strengths as a team are probably our MLS, like our ability to rot teams down and just live for a long time and then eventually win. We have a lot of different comps we can play. We're really flexible.
So after we qualified for the first cup, our two main comps got nerfed. Battle Fatigue came in and Moonkins got nerfed. So Rosita Jones delivered an Enhancement Shaman. We've been playing that and practicing that a lot.
I started the team roster, so I kind of picked everyone.
Yeah, when we were forming our team in the first place, Paladins were probably the strongest healer, and they needed a Paladin, and I could play multiple roles, so it just kind of worked out.
I think the best part about our team is the fact that Gorecki can multi-class and really play anything at a really high level. So we have a lot of versatility with our comps, and hopefully that can help us pull through.